All right, Xfinity at Nashville. Here are my settings: 14:1, +2, and 72. Now, once again, the steering ratio and steering offset are comfort-based. Brake bias, I think, is pretty important that you keep pretty high up there. If you keep the brake bias too low with this high horsepower oversteer type car on a short track, that can get really sketchy. The corner entries you don't really even worry about too much in terms of rotation, just because of the amount of braking that you're under. It's not like the trail brake is ever going to come into play on entry. You might be able to hold a little bit on center, but you've already slowed your car so much by entry, then the trail brake doesn't matter too much on center. Let's try a first lap here and then bail and try a second lap if I don't get a good corner in 1 and 2. High to low. Brake a little early here. Point the car down, try to apex not too late. That's pretty good. Try to make this work. Oh, little slide there. We'll give it one more try here. Okay. I'm going to try to arc my corner a little more here. It's better. Almost 2 identical laps there. We'll see what the track temperature was and take a look at the second lap there for sure. So that was 90 degrees. I think the first lap that I had that compared to is at like 88 degrees, so that's fine. All right. So setting up for the lap. You actually don't really need a setup for the lap. You can see that this came on the back of a first lap. You gain like maybe 200ths by doing the wide setup, but even though you carry a ton more speed at the start finish line, you're on the brake like, or at least you're almost on the chip almost instantly, and then you're on the brake only like a second later. So the amount of time that you gain by doing that setup is not as massive as it would be at 1.5 miles. So as we go into the corner here, I like to hit about 50% brake as I'm entering the corner. That actually looks a little low for me, and I think it was because... So what you want to do is you want to set up for the corner early. So I want my nose pointed to that seam as early as possible. I think I did it just a tiny bit late. You see how I'm almost a little bit behind getting there, and because of that I had to use less brake. If I had my nose pointed a little bit earlier, then I could have used more brake and slowed the car down earlier, and that would have allowed me to get back onto the throttle earlier. Let's do this real quick. So as we get into the corner, I see there's 2 stages of braking. The first stage is the brake to slow down, which I do while I'm relatively straight. Then once I enter the banking, I immediately transfer that into a trail brake, hold it about 10 to 20%. And then at that point, you just use your steering wheel to keep it stuck to wherever you want to go. If you try to rely on your brake too much like you would in like 1.5 miles, that's how you can kick out your rear tire. So don't be afraid to use your tires like that on short tracks. Once you kind of make that entry and you're on your line, it's not too bad because you're not really going a super fast pace relatively. So use your steering wheel to stick it to the seam. And then I think I apex a little tiny bit early there. Those bumps down there are a little gnarly, but at the same time, I would have had to dive the corner a little bit harder to make that naturally work. So it's kind of like the amount of risk tolerance. The more you're able to send the corner without kicking out your rears and sliding the tires, the more that you'll be able to have that very tidy late apex line and you can straighten out the exit. 3 and 4, again, got to like 50, down to a trail, then back to the throttle, hold it at 50, and then once I can straighten out the steering wheel, go 100. So same rules that I've outlined in my how to drive short tracks video, especially in the NASCARs. These are pretty much universal rules at short tracks, except for like the really weird ones. So brake to slow down, so 50% brake while your wheel is straight. Once you enter the banking and start turning the wheel, you brake to turn, so about 10 to 20%. Then you transfer that throttle to about 50% throttle, and then you hold that until you can straighten out the steering wheel, and that's when you go 100. Do not go 100 until you are able to straighten out the steering wheel. You can test like going 50 to 60, 60 to 70, whatever, but that 100% mark is really going to kick out your rear tires if you have any steering input, or at least you're holding a steering input. In terms of long run, it's going to be really easy to overheat your tires. I think that the mistake that a lot of people make at these tracks is that they compound their mistakes. So they will heat up their tires one corner and then overdrive the next corner to try and compensate, or even just try to approach the corner in the same way. And what that does is your tires don't have that same amount of grip because they're all heated up. So you miss it again. So you really gotta be disciplined, and if you make a mistake, you gotta back it down for a little bit. One thing that I'm gonna be very disciplined as well, and for the race, is holding that partial throttle until my steering wheel is straight, because kicking out your rear tires is very detrimental for a long run in short tracks, because tire wear doesn't really matter all too much. It's more about tire heat. And if you make little tiny mistakes that add tire heat to your car, then you're just at a disadvantage regardless of what your tire percentage is. And that's really how it works in everything, but they're a little less correlated here than they would be at like a 1.5 mile track. You can kind of run this seam. The bottom is fine too. I'll run a couple laps at the bottom. You gotta brake a little bit earlier. Might be better on your tire heat actually. It's a little slower, and then when you run the bottom like this, it's a lot easier to overdrive exit. So you just gotta keep in mind that you don't have that same angle that you do when you run center. Oops, excuse me. So it's a different game when you're down here. I almost just like to say, when I can go full throttle, it feels like I'm driving up a hill. It doesn't feel like I'm turning the car. Whereas in the second line, it's a little bit more momentum that you can carry. I probably would run bottom when I'm not super pressured, and then that middle line is probably going to come in handy for defending. As you get more laps on your tires, you also want to understand that they're going to perform differently than you're used to. So you got to make sure that your timings and your marks are subject to change. You don't really want to have markings, you want to have goals. I guess that's what I'm trying to say here. So early braking, making sure that the car is on its line, hold that partial throttle until it's ready to go full throttle, and then when it goes full throttle is when I can straighten out the wheel. You see I don't really have a set line. I just kind of see where I'm at corner entry and go according to that. Like, I can be on the bottom, I can be on the middle, I don't really care. I don't think you can. I'll try to run the top. There's no way the top works. Yeah, there's no grip up here. That's kind of funny. That lit up my rears too, so that's a good way to showcase. I gotta really underdrive these corners now because I lit up my rears doing that. Oh, you see how I got loose? I wouldn't have gotten loose without my rears already being lit up. So yeah, this will probably burn the rears. We'll take a look at the tires here, but just make sure that as you go along in the run that you're really looking to not kick out your rear tire. And you gotta change all your inputs to match that. So yeah, 98, 97, and then the rear tire's hotter than the front, which is not always the case, especially on the left. That's kind of funny. But other than that, thank you all for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you all on the track.